Welcome to the this month's webinar featuring our friend Cheryl Whitman from Beautiful Forever. Let me, before I introduce Cheryl officially, let me get started with just a couple of business items quickly today. First of all, this is going to be a great presentation. I've talked to Cheryl about it. This title of 7 Steps to Building a Culture of Patient Outreach is a critical thing in every single practice today. Thinking about how do you hang on to these clients when there are so many distractions around all the time, and how do you make sure that within your own office everyone's bought into the same concepts of making sure that the patient is really treated in a VIP fashion. And really, if you do that, you're going to grow your practice. And Cheryl's going to talk about that. A couple things quickly though. Cheryl's going to give her presentation, and then she's going to answer questions that you have. For those questions, I will be the moderator for those, and on your dashboard here on the go to meeting section, you can type in your question or raise your hand. But anyway, if you'll type in your question there, I'll be able to get those. I'll fill those, and I'll be able to moderate those with Cheryl at the end of her presentation. And if we run out of time, her information will be available, so you can contact her directly. Also, go ahead and mark your calendars for next month, just announcing our webinar for next month. It's going to be on Wednesday, November 2nd. Our guest next month is Mike Sakopoulos. Mike is an attorney. He focuses on medical law, and particularly on HIPAA law and consulting practices. As attorneys go, he's actually very interesting to listen to. He's extremely knowledgeable. There's a ton of changes happening right now. One that's come down the last week or two that is going to affect any practice accepting insurance in regards to translation, which he'll talk about and address then. But it's going to be well worthwhile. So mark that down, and I'll be sending out more information on that. But Mike is truly a great proponent of helping practices make sure they're doing things properly. With those things out of the way, let me go ahead and introduce our guest today, Cheryl Whitman. Cheryl is, first and foremost, a great friend of mine. I've known Cheryl for a number of years. We're on faculty together at a number of conferences. I personally hope that I can have the same energy that Cheryl has as I grow. She has an amazing energy, amazing passion for what she does. Cheryl has a background in education. She has, and that has actually led her to create her Beautiful Forever University, where she's doing ongoing training for practices. She's been helping aesthetic practices now for over 20 years for 30 years. She's the creator of the Aesthetic Medical Success System. She has an amazing book called Beautifully Profitable Beautifully Profitable, Forever Profitable. And this book is one I have read personally, and what she offers in her book is phenomenal. You're going to get a brief glimpse of that today and understanding some of the strategies for building a successful practice. But Cheryl is a consultant. She handles everything from the print to the strategy to the brand development to your business setup and expansion to project management and building your marketing strategies. So today she's going to share, as I mentioned at the top, the 7 steps to building a culture of patient outreach. It's my honor to go ahead and welcome Cheryl today. Cheryl, thank you for joining us.
And thank you, Chad. It was a lovely introduction. So we're here to discuss building a culture of patient outreach. Well, there's a lot to that, even though it might sound really simple, it's not. We want the patients to feel that wow effect, that wow, you really do care. And I want you to listen to that and listen to those words, and if you're taking notes, there's some key things that will come out of today. Listening to your audience, communicating and educating so your patients really do feel educated and you've heard them, you've listened to what their needs are. You want them to feel that way, that you have the solution. And that equals a winning, successful practice or medi-spa. Now, it's not as simple as it sounds, but ask yourself, is your practice truly patient-centric? I can't see your hands, I guess you can raise them, but how many of you really feel that your practice is patient-centric, that the patient is the number one most important thing. They are. Even though we all think we're important, the patient is really what is most important. So do your patients feel that? Do they feel that everything you do is for them? From the very first impression on, that market must feel, your market must feel that in your office. And is your patient engagement the first thought on your staff's mind? So has the staff been trained to understand that you truly are all about customer service and the practice really being about the patients, and it's not about them? Patients on the phone, patients could be in front of you, patients could be emailing you. It's not easy to balance. We have the same thing as a consulting company. You know, it's never easy to balance everything that we're all doing. We're all wearing multiple hats, juggling multiple jobs. But those first impressions really do count. It takes about 6 seconds if somebody visually looks at you, believe it or not, to make that first impression. So it's equally as important, the person who's on the phone, as the person who's emailing you, as the person who is in front of you who's trying to check out. So you need to figure out the perfect flow, and having enough staff, I can't emphasize, is an issue when we talk to many, many practices every day. Everybody is complaining how they're overworked, and I get it. I understand it. But I think if everything was very well organized, when we go in and do assessments, we see where the holes are and where the issues are to get from a surgical practice into the Medi-Spa. Might be 300 square feet. People are losing papers. They're not signing up for what they came in for, and the flow is just not there. So it's really important that you start looking at your market and start segmenting out your market. So your practice goals. Everybody should have goals, whether they're financial goals, whatever the numbers are, the number of patients you want to come through your door. Doesn't matter at this point. At this point, what I'm here to talk to you about is your patients and how they feel. Do they feel that you really care about them, safe and valued and understood? Do they know that you're listening to them and that you hear everything that they say? That is a very important message, the way that you communicate and educate your patients, and that they have felt heard. We all know loyalty and retention is what we aim for in every business. That is the number one thing, the loyalty and retention. How do you get that feeling of belonging? How do you get that feeling where your patient feels, wow, I'm really important here, and I really feel like I belong? So that's ultimately today's goal in what we're going to talk about. And if there's any questions you have today or in any other time, you're more than welcome to email me, Cheryl@beautifulforever.com, and I'll be happy to answer them. So we're talking about establishing the patient-centric focus throughout. And it's important that the patients feel that it's all about them, as we just discussed, and they understand that you get it. We all want satisfied patients. So the first impression that you leave is it, whether it's, again, on the phone, on an email. It's very important that everybody's equally as educated and trained. That connection, the creating of the culture of the patient. So the culture of the patient means, for you, is that you go back after this and you have a meeting with your staff and talk about the culture, and our brand is about the patient. How do we make the patient feel really special? If you can achieve that, and it's not easy, it will take some time, and maybe, you need to undo some wrongdoings, and maybe you need some new staff. When we assess staff, we often say, maybe, she shouldn't be at the front desk, or she shouldn't be answering phones because she doesn't sound like what the doctor really wants her to sound like. There's so much money and effort and time put into getting the phone to ring, or getting somebody to email you, or book a consult. Don't be stingy with education or how much you're paying the person at the front desk to answer the phone. It is really important. You want the patients to feel like you're educated They're all educated consumers now. The internet has done that for everybody across the board, 24/7. So you want to instill in the patient that there is a balance of human touch, that you're really there for them. And as we know, what do women want? Women want to feel a part of something. They want to feel heard. What is the best way to communicate with them? You'll ask them, they'll tell you. Not just create a list of, okay, I'm going to call and follow up and check them off and goodbye. You really have to show that you care. I know a lot of you out there think that this is a job, but it really should be looked at as, more than a job, that this is, something that could be a future for you, and it is the future of your medical director or of your providers. So that human touch is important. And why do I bring that up? Because we're all about automation these days. Even myself, I'm busy text messaging everybody 24/7. So half the time I'm not even calling. So if there's an issue, if there's a problem, even if there's a follow-up, that automation is good as a backup, but that human touch is missing. And I can see it missing across the board because we're just so programmed to making things easy and fast on our tablets or our cell phones. So making a call to a patient to follow up, to make sure they're satisfied, to see that you've met their needs, is super important. We want to get it right from the beginning. So again, the key points to start off on the right foot, and the patient is first. You want to introduce a new patient to your staff, and you also want the staff, if they see a new patient or they see a patient in the hallway, to recognize and say hello. It's also nice when you walk in, if you're not a number, that they know your name and they know that you're coming in and you associate the name. That is a key thing. Maybe the staff wear name tags, so it's easier for a patient in the practice, whether they've been there once or 10 times, to remember names and maybe even titles. That eye contact, when you look at somebody straight in the eye, think about yourself when you're talking to somebody. You feel that you're being heard when they're looking at you. You also want people to feel very comfortable. So we say offer amenities, a beverage bar, some fruit, some healthy snacks, even Wi-Fi. Because sometimes you have to ask, what's your Wi-Fi password? And it's this complicated password. By the time you figure it out, you already have come and gone. So make things really simple and easy and comfortable seating. We've done some designs where we had VIP rooms where people can go in and wait in a VIP room opposed to waiting in a big waiting room with lots of people around, so that if they have some work to do and they have to wait, they're not so stressed out about it. But you want to be very welcoming, and you want to have informative surroundings. Also having video loops that are interesting and updated, and if they are from one particular company or about one particular product, add your own information into the video loops. We do that all the time. It doesn't take very much work. Add your own before and after pictures. Everybody wants to feel a part of what is going on and a part of your practice. And it sometimes starts with the front desk, but it ends with when they leave. We call it the hello and goodbye girl at the desk, or man. I don't want to be just about women, but I have to say most men are not at the front desk. I wish there were more. But how well is the practice run? When people are coming in, what's their experience? When they leave, what is their experience? You want to lay the groundwork from the very first key point of them coming in or calling your practice. Reaching out. Well, individually, you want to reach out to each patient. You want to listen, answer questions, and you want to offer them solutions. You need to repeat sometimes something that they've had a concern about. And that's a way to build a relationship and build a bond. Individually, you can reach out to each new patient before they're coming in, make sure you have the paperwork so they don't have to sit there and spend an extra half hour in the office. These days, we all are multitasking, doing a million things. Nobody wants to spend extra time if they don't have to. You can actually call to follow up when they leave to make sure that they got the results that they were looking for. And individually reach out to especially new patients. we all want testimonials and we all want positive reviews. It starts now at the beginning, building that bond and building that relationship in order to get there, because you're establishing that positive culture. So a lot of practices are complaining, I have negative reviews. We ask them, are you monitoring your reviews? It is important to your bottom line. Do you have a strategy or a plan to manage and promote positive reviews? And a lot of the time, it's no. We tell people to go onto Yelp or Google. You need to have a better plan. You need better testimonials. You need more of them. If you can get video testimonials, those are great. For as low as like $250 a month, you can get more and more reviews. You don't have to spend a lot of money. There's some companies out there telling you spend $2,500 a month to get reviews. It's not true. You don't have to do that, and I'm happy to talk to you about it after. Reminders. Again, there's companies out there that automate systems and assist you to help in getting through, because I know that it's hard to remember birthdays and for you to expect your staff to remember to send out email blasts on birthdays or incentives. It's hard enough getting a newsletter out every month. So, again, for like $350 a month, you can actually get these things automated and done to help you, so the staff could be spending more time on the super important follow-ups, pre and post surgical procedures. It could even be as simple as a laser treatment or microdermabrasion, and following up is very important. And your patients, enhancing communication, being effective and efficient is good for both you working in the office and good for your patients. You want to enhance the satisfaction rate. And how do we do it? You have to take your customer service to the next level. You also must respond quickly. The statistics are overwhelming. And if you want some statistics at another time, I can absolutely get them to you. Just email me. If you're not answering the phones, if you're putting people on hold, if you're not responding to emails or getting on social media and responding pretty quickly, the response rate, every 5 minutes, you're losing money. After 5 o'clock, who's answering your phones? There are lots of solutions. And we just actually started the Rejuvenation Network, which is really exciting. And in our network, we have solutions for all of these things, and I could break them down according to your needs. And it doesn't mean that they're expensive. They're not. But you need to focus on some of these small things because they enhance the patient's satisfaction, and they empower the patient, and it'll help your staff. It's all about your patients being happy. Marketing is one size fits all. As much as everybody would like to think we're just going to put that ad out there for the average 50-year-old, sorry, that won't work. You have to understand the life cycle of your patient and the value. So a patient's coming in, you don't just look at it as, they're only coming in and spending $300 or $500 today. It's one visit. What you need to do is you need to think about, okay, the life cycle of this patient could literally be $100,000 or more. Why? Because if they're happy with their experience, they're happy to try other services. You can upsell them to other services. You can create a blueprint or a plan for 12 months on how they could look better or feel better and take care of their skin, for an example. But do your messages and your ads waste time and waste money? We often see that you're not targeting your messages to your exact demographics of what it is. So if you got a new piece of equipment in, I'll use Thermiva, vaginal rejuvenation. I'm known as the Thermi Queen, so I might as well bring that up. So at first it might have been for women who were just menopause, pre or post. You know what? We're learning 30-year-olds are interested in vaginal rejuvenation now. So don't miss the mark. But you also might want to do exclusive events for the younger generation, the mommy makeover, and you might want to do separate events for the women who are in menopause years because there's different problems, different questions. But you have to carefully listen to your patients, outreach to the segments, be sure that your EMR programs, your software programs could separate out in ages and groups. That's super important. And you definitely want more face time with your patients ongoing. Again, it helps with retention. And the way to do that is when you engage them at an event, you can invite them, you can have a VIP list, which is what I usually recommend, and start with that. Engage people at events and book consults, book procedures, offer them added value, offer them some discount for attending. And now is the perfect time of year because we're looking at the fourth quarter. And the fourth quarter is time to really make good money. People have more money to spend. It's the holiday time, gift certificate times. We often ask, how come you don't have gift certificates, on your website? How come you don't offer, gift cards? Those are things we can talk about further. But what we really want to do is build your business one patient at a time. So over-invest in your new patient communication and educate your staff of the life cycle of a patient. Don't just look at it as the patient's only there once. You have to invest in them thinking that if they're happy, they'll be back. Somebody needs to come in, and as consultants we often do this. We come in and observe what's going on, and we just watch, and the things that we see are pretty devastating. But you need to observe, or your office manager needs to observe and communicate and educate your staff. You want to create a unique brand, a unique atmosphere. You're spending a lot of money in marketing, a lot of money in overhead. You really need a magnifying glass, and you really need to look hard at what is going on. Start role-playing with the staff. What if there's an unhappy patient situation? How is it handled? It shouldn't be handled from one to the other to the other. They shouldn't be put on hold. They should be asked to come in, and everybody needs to be engaged. And don't be afraid to contact an unhappy patient and have them come in for another treatment, or talk to your manager, or talk to the doctor or the provider that did the treatment. Again, that could stop lawsuits, and I know next month you can be dealing with talking about legal stuff, but you want to make everybody feel that what they're saying is important. So again, who's right when it comes to retail business? The patient is always right. The customer is always right. And you have to let them know that this is so in your practice. So if they're unhappy, you want to change it, and you want to solve it. And you want to create a solid program for unhappy patients. And everybody in your office must understand if there's anybody who doesn't walk out super happy, that they need to be followed up, brought back in and talked to, and make them happy. Your return on investment will be absolutely worth it in the long run. Retaining those patients that love you is great, but don't take it for granted. Casual, we all let down our guard a little when it's somebody that we know, that's loyal to us, that we know for a long time. I do it too. There's no question. But what you really want to do is you still want to keep up a certain level of professionalism. You still want the please and the thank you, and you still want them to feel special. Don't sit back and relax and put your legs up. Really be astute, because remember, there's a lot of competition out there. All of what I'm teaching you today will help you stay above the competition, even if you just do a small pin dot of what we're talking about. You can send out a handwritten thank you note from the provider. That is worth so much to a patient that you really do care. Or even that phone call we talked about, finding out if they were happy. Connecting equals loyalty, and we all want loyal patients. And we don't want to take anybody for granted. You want to utilize what you have within your core practice and make sure that all of your staff knows what it is that you're trying to. Let's say there's a monthly event or a monthly special. Everybody should really be aware of what's going on and make all of your patients aware of what's going on. So if you're going to do a unique event for a special targeted group of 30-year-olds, great, or 50-year-olds, 70-year-olds, whatever it is, invite the proper people to the event, make them feel special. You can even pick up the phone and invite them to the event, and we find that that really does work. But always make sure that you have added value. We're all shoppers these days, and we're all looking for added value. Investments, well, they have to know that you care about them. So establish your practice as a powerful educational center. And what we're really trying to say here is you are the model. You have the options at your fingertips to educate your patients. If you educate your patients, which is what they're really looking for, whether it's in 10 minutes or 30 minutes, and some practices take an hour and a half to do a consult and to educate. I think that's a little overdoing it, but some doctors feel comfortable doing that. But basically, you want to become some authority and important to that patient. So when they leave, they feel like you've taught them what their options are. You were very clear, you were very honest. And even if it's not something they want to buy into today, they will remember that. And they will tell their family, they will tell their friends what a great experience they had. So you want to establish your practice as that powerful educational center and create a culture that patients want to be part of. And the staff engages with everybody. And you want to utilize your patients to tell the story. Build that bond. This way they'll be willing to give you that positive review, especially the happy patients. You might have to ask for a review, but don't be afraid to ask. If they had a truly good experience, they will be very happy to do, whether it's a video, whether it's a written testimonial. That's up to you, but you should be asking. And I will ask you now, if you have any questions, the time is coming up where you can start typing them in. But at Beautiful Forever, we have a large team. We're national. We travel. We do things virtually. And we're willing to offer all of you that are on the webinar today a discount on consulting time. We will give you a free phone assessment, and usually within a half hour or so, we can assess what is going on, and we can analyze what it is you need. If you're looking to find more qualified leads coming through your door, we can discuss the Rejuvenation Network program that we're starting now, which is going very, very well. I'd love you to join my Facebook Live show. Go onto Facebook. You can like Beautiful Forever Aesthetic Consulting. Ask questions. I'm on at least twice a month, if not more. And the Beautifully Profitable book, Forever Profitable, it's in its 5th edition. We've sold, I think it's over 6,000 copies. And it is all about effective management and marketing and transforming your practice or your Medi-Spa. So we'll give you a lot of very good education. We do have a special for you today. It's a VIP discount code that will save you money, and you can download the ebook now on beautifullyprofitable.com. If you'd like to see the 5-star Amazon reviews, please go on to Amazon. You can even order it on there, but I can't offer you a discount. And I look forward to meeting all of you at one of the meetings soon. I'm off to California Aesthetic meeting tomorrow morning. If any of you will be there, I will absolutely be there. And I thank you for your time today.
Great. Cheryl, thank you very much. And I will be joining you in Irvine at the Aesthetic Academy, and both of us are speaking there on Sunday as part of that faculty. So thank you very much for your time today. We have a few questions, and if anybody else has any more questions, please feel free to add those to the dashboard, and I'll go ahead and moderate those. One of the first questions we have, Cheryl, is you talked about training and monitoring. So how, with as busy as practices get, what have you found to be the key to offering consistent training and monitoring of that training within a practice? Staff turnover happens. So how do they make sure that the consistency is going on, and how they monitor that?
Well, everything starts at the top. So we have to look at who's at the top of the chain, who's on the top of the organizational chart. So it's probably the doctor in most cases, and then underneath the doctor would be your office manager. They have to be on board and on the same page, and depending on how much staff you have. So it starts at the top with monitoring. One of the things we do as consultants, we do a lot of mystery phone calls and mystery shopping to see that the people on the phone or when we're in there visiting actually are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they are doing their job at task. It is very hard with staff turnover, but I find that if you pay well, and again, they're treated well, and they're treated with respect, the staff will stay. Practices I find that have a lot of turnover, there's usually a reason why. And it could be one bad apple, could be a manager that's too tough and not flexible, but everybody, has issues. The training should be on a monthly basis within the practice, and every month there should be a special training, and it's not only a meeting to talk about negative things that are going on in the practice. It should be an educational hour, and then each month for 15 minutes it should be, and I tell people to use a beautifully profitable book, open it up, pick a chapter, and talk about that in a monthly marketing meeting. So everybody's on the same page, and everybody is educated on the same level. If you have vendors, have them come in on a regular basis to do some training as well. Monitoring each of the staff members, well, you can do staff reviews quarterly and review the staff on how they're doing, and you can have patient surveys and ask the patients how your staffs are doing.
No, thanks, Cheryl, and I agree and echo everything you've said. You also mentioned something earlier, which I think is a critical piece, and it's doing some role playing. I think, nobody likes to do role playing. It's one of those uncomfortable things. However, it absolutely is a critical piece when you're training, getting people into a potentially uncomfortable situation before it happens. That's why these sports teams, you think of like a football team, they practice for every potential scenario. A 2-minute drill, whatever it might be, end of a game, if we have to throw it all the way down the court, they're practicing those things so it's comfortable for them in a moment when it might actually really happen. So again, making it a priority though is the critical piece, and being consistent, putting it on the calendar, and don't let anything get in your way is what I found to be extremely helpful for any practice that really wants to be serious about this patient outreach and making sure that culture is there. Next question I have for you today, Cheryl, is how do you feel about asking patients to leave a review on Yelp? I have some thoughts on this, but go ahead.
I think you should absolutely be asking patients to leave reviews wherever they can. There's probably 75 different sites. I mean, Real Self is great, Yelp is great, Google is great, Facebook is wonderful. There's so much traction on Facebook, which I've learned from my Facebook Live show. It's amazing how you get 3,000 and another 5,000 people in a matter of days listening to you.
Right.
So, the other thing is to make sure that you get the patients to sign off if they do a video review. Because those are probably the most powerful, and that best because of what goes on with the website and the search engines. They just love video. But asking is not a problem. If you have a happy patient, and that's why when I started out today, I talked a lot about building that bond, that first communication, and building up from there. So once you have that happy patient and they feel really comfortable with you, it should be very easy to ask them for a review.
Yes, absolutely. Reviews are critical. You mentioned Real Self. Our guest in December is actually going to be Ava Shea from Real Self, coming in to talk about reviews. So that'll be great. But and specifically to Yelp, let me just address Yelp just quickly. Yelp is a great place. Yelp is powerful, and so you can't neglect it. I know people have a love-hate relationship with it. They feel like it's a negative place, and in many instances it really is, and it's one of those that can really drag your business down. So you need to be aware of it, and Cheryl talked about that. You need to have a system in place. Both she and I can talk to you individually about that, of different platforms that are affordable, that are helpful, but the first thing you need to know is what is being said about you, both good and bad, online, and then there are great solutions for helping you build up more positive reviews online. But absolutely, Yelp is one of those you need to pay attention to. It's not going away. One thing I'll mention is that Yelp won a major lawsuit a year ago. It was in the 9th District Court in California, which is a federal court. They were accused of being extortionist, meaning they were basically accused of suppressing good reviews and only showing bad reviews. And it came back and said, the judgment came down and said that Yelp can do whatever they want. So understand that they are out there, although I will say they are improving as far as their response. If things are libel or slander, they're removing those. If the patient's not been there, if it's been repeated in other places. So Yelp has become more friendly for businesses over the last few months, but still be aware of it. Next question I have, Cheryl, is do you need to give staff a financial incentive, and how much?
A financial incentive could be looked at in many different ways. We can't tie the financial incentive, as your lawyer will tell you, to closing a deal or for selling a facelift or booking, a liposuction. So you have to be very careful and create compensation programs that make sense. There are some individual compensation programs, and then there's some group compensation programs. There's quarterly bonuses. There's commissions on retail sales, and then there's annual bonuses. So you really have to look at a whole compensation package along with a job description of what somebody is doing, and then, again, going back to reviews, review how they're doing, so this way they're not surprised if they didn't get at the end of the year the bonus that they thought they would be getting. But you shouldn't tie dollar for dollar. If you have a goal and you know what it is and your team meets the goal, then you can have a team dinner. You can get gift certificates to, to a spa for a day for your staff, or get a cleaning girl to come and clean their house if they sell the most retail products or sell the most, procedures. There's lots of creative things that you can do. Give them some of your miles from your, points that, you've racked up. There's also things you can do, but be very cautious not to do it dollar for dollar, because I don't want you to get in trouble, but you would talk to your healthcare attorney about that.
The other item to consider on that is when you're doing the financial incentives, and they can be extremely motivational for a staff to push things, make sure it's on your profit and not on your revenue, so that you're not, in case they're offering discounts, you're not cutting into your margins more than you should be. So if you're doing it on the profit, then everybody can win. Kind of a follow-up question to one of the first one on Yelp is, this individual said they read somewhere on Yelp's page that they discourage asking for reviews. I'll answer that first, Cheryl, and then give you a second. But what I'm aware of on the Yelp piece, and this really goes for any of the review sites, and what they really discourage is offering an incentive, like saying, hey, I'm going to offer you free Botox to leave a review, would be in violation of their rules. But just asking somebody, hey, if you get a minute, would you mind leaving a review? There's really nothing wrong with that. They're not, the person needs to have been to your practice. That is the one requirement they have. And so, going back historically, I had left some reviews for some of my clients, had not been to their practices. Yelp removed those reviews because I'd not been there, and so you got to be careful with that. But if someone's been there, they've been to your practice, had a great experience, go ahead and ask them. Just don't offer something in exchange. I had a client of mine who was offering free Maui Jim sunglasses for every Yelp review. He actually had to stop that, so he wasn't in violation. So just be aware of that. Cheryl, anything you want to add on that? Are you good?
I think you did a great job with that. That's your thing, Yelp. You're a Yelper.
Okay. Cheryl, another question is, when hiring, you talk about that first impression, and I agree, it's so important. This question is, when hiring the front desk person, what are 2 or 3 of the top things that they should be evaluating on that new hire?
Well, it's really, the personality is number one. We're not supposed to talk about somebody's looks because it's not ethical, but this is the aesthetic world and the aesthetic business. So the customer service savviness, their smile, not as much of where they came from, because sometimes I'm finding that you're looking for people who came from another practice, and the way that you run your practice could be very, very different than the practice they came from. So, they could have been a Groupon practice and you're an elite, high-end practice. So to retrain somebody is harder than training somebody to start. So it starts with their personality, their willingness to learn, their willingness to not look at this as just a job, but as a future and a career. And somebody that has it all put together. We used to look at Starbucks or the Four Seasons Hotel and look at their training and look at who they brought in and how well they train them. And some of these people had no past experience. and they were top rated for customer service. So that again goes back to the core of what we talked about, building that culture. Make sure the person fits your brand, fits your culture, and I think that those are the key things, and then they could be educated from there. But make sure that educating them is not somebody who's leaving, somebody who's angry, somebody who doesn't really know your culture, and they're leaving because they just don't fit in. So the person that trains the person you hire is equally as important.
That training is critical. One of the other things I've found, just kind of adding to that, is if someone is not a fit, I've found that a lot of practices make the mistake of hanging on to somebody for too long. I think you need to be quick to let somebody go if they're not going to work out. You do your best job to try to screen in your hiring process, make sure they're part of that brand, make sure they're going to buy in. But if they're not a fit, and you can see it right away, move on. There are others out there that can do that. One of the individuals, not a question, but just a comment. They mentioned that one of their first jobs was they were trained for 6 weeks before ever speaking to a potential customer, and just talked about training is crucial. You're spot on with that, Cheryl. One of the parts you mentioned is just what patients are looking for, and I'm just going to add in here a little bit. It goes back to the what's in it for me, the WIIFM. The patient has to understand the benefit of why, what's there, what's in it for them, why is this so important, why do they care, and getting them to buy into that becomes, important. It's that ongoing training. You just can't assume, that word, assume, we know what that means, but if you assume too much, I talked to them once about what they need to be doing. That's not going to be enough. It has to be consistent and ongoing to make sure everyone's spot on of what we do, what our process is, how we focus in. If we have a new laser, a new product, a new service, do we have a system in place to make sure that we're upselling, cross-selling, talking about those, that we're making sure everyone's having a great experience when they come in, the way that they're greeted. I work with my own kids. We've got, kids today are so focused on that device in their hand. I'm making my kids put it down when they come home from school. It goes in a basket. And we do training in our house every once in a while, like, shake my hand. It better be firm. I don't want any fish handshake. Look me in the eyes. But a lot of people, are missing that. I interview people all the time. They come in. I'm like, no one has taught these people basic life skills. And so looking for those pieces is so important. Cheryl, last question today is what are some of you talked about communication channels. What are some of your preferred patient communication channels that are most effective?
Well, it depends what we're trying to communicate, but basically, the follow-up in a very quick time turnover is probably the number one. And once you learn what the patient likes, whether it's text messages or emails or phone calls, then that's what you do. But at the beginning, the communication channel would definitely be to pick up the phone and to call them, and that's where I think we're missing the mark in most practices and med spas today, because everybody's so busy that they have somebody at the desk just calling for the appointment, point blank, asking one or two questions. You might have to have somebody in a call center or in a room in the back answering calls uninterrupted and being able to spend the time answering the questions, because that communication, especially the first communication, is very important, but then the follow-up, as I said, is important as well. I do want to go back to one thing, Chad, that ties all of this in when it talks about staff and staff training. And we could probably do a whole segment on that. But the onboarding process, and I'm about to write an article on that for one of the publications, but it probably won't come out to 2017. But the onboarding process is really a missing link in 99% of the corporations or the practices or the hospitals or the institutes and centers we work with. Across the board, that onboarding process is not there. And it is so important, going back to what, the audience just even commented on, getting that training and feeling confident, where most people are just thrown into the job. Here's the job, go do it. We want to see results tomorrow. And that is probably what is happening across the board in every community and every business, because nobody has time. We all just want to keep our business, keep up with the momentum, The environment, the financial markets are good. At least most of, things are looking up. And so, that onboarding process is something I would definitely say when you're looking at new hires, really, you can talk to me about it. Call me, email me, but I really think it's important that you learn about the onboarding process and create one for your team and create one for your staff. And then you have that to use over and over again, but you need one. And I can tell you that there's probably 1 out of 1,000 practices I've spoken to that ever had an onboarding process. And that even goes to some big corporate accounts that we've worked with over the last 30 years.
Gosh, Cheryl, that's so important. And I hope for our audience today, as you're listening, if some of these items have just resonated with you and you're thinking, wow, we're missing that, it's okay. It's important to recognize where you are, to be metacognizant, and then realize, okay, it doesn't have to be this way. We can change it. Don't be afraid to do something drastic. Don't be afraid to reboot. Don't be afraid to, let's restart this. Cheryl is available to help you as well. Cheryl, go back 1 slide so they make sure they get your information. So if you'd like to reach Cheryl and talk to her directly, again, she's given a very generous offer today, and thank you very much for doing that for our participants today, Cheryl. This has been our biggest audience ever on this webinar, and we appreciate all of our attendees. But Cheryl can offer and help you set up these processes for the onboarding. She can actually help you specifically, because every practice is different. So for our individual that asked about the incentive programs, it really is so different for every single practice. But as part of that consultation that she's offered, so generously offered today, if you'd like to reach out to her, she can learn more about your practice, what you have going on, and help you determine for your practice what might be some reasonable incentives that would work. But again, she's available to help manage and consult in any way she can, and I hope I can do that as well. So Cheryl, thank you for your time today and for being a friend of Advice Media. Look forward to seeing you this weekend in Irvine and being on the speaking floor with you. So thank you again, and everyone, thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have you. We look forward to seeing you with us next month. Wish you the best throughout the rest of October. Hope you have a great 4th quarter in all of your practices. Continue to grow, continue to do the best things. Thank you very much.